Namaste. Welcome to the Ilongga Yogi podcast. My name is Kate and I'm from Iloilo City. I'm the founder of Healing Iloilo, where I teach daily yoga classes, and I'm the founder of Mental Health Iloilo, a community that supports mental health awareness here in Iloilo City. I share content on yoga, mindfulness, wellness, mental health, self-care, and healing. Before we get into it, I would like to invite you to my classes at Molo Mansion. So if you're interested in taking a class with me soon, just head over to Healing Iloilo's Facebook page to book a class. Welcome back, everyone. I am so happy to be here today recording this finally. It has been months in the making. I've been looking forward to doing this and finally have gotten the time to just sit down and record an episode. So just know that right here, right now, I'm happy to be here and I'm so happy that you're here listening to me. So I want to start off just like my previous episode. I want to check in on how you're doing. How is life lately? How are you feeling? Are you okay? Have you been taking care of yourself? And I hope that as you are listening to this episode right now, you're taking the time to pause and to be present. So, what has been happening lately? Well, where am I in my healing journey now? A lot has happened. If you follow me on my socials, then probably you're kind of aware that I've taken on a big responsibility lately. And, my last episode, my goodness, it's already been many months. The last time that I did this, I talked about finding support for those who support a lot of people, caring for caregivers. And I think that at that point in my life, I was really overwhelmed with a lot of things. I just felt overwhelmed because at that point, I already started this big commitment. So, just a quick background, which is kind of what this whole episode will focus on. I have taken the responsibility of leading an organization or like a chapter, and it's just 1 year to lead. So, after that, I'm done. And I'll talk more about that later on, what that organization is, what I'm doing. But basically, when you take on this role, you kind of give your entire life to it. And you just give everything that you have because you know that you only have it's not even a year, like it's less than a year to serve. So this time, well, not this time, but last year during my last episode, that's when the transition was starting. You're putting things into place. There's a lot of planning. I was going like at 100 miles per hour. So there was so much that I was doing. I remember I think I just settled down coming back from a big month-long travel, and during that vacation, it wasn't even a vacation because I was really working every day, and it was a lot. I was going through a lot because of the time change, so I was still adjusting to that. And when you take on this obligation, you really have to move your life around. I had to really make huge adjustments in my life and my routine to figure out what's the best schedule and what's the best routine for me day to day that'll support all the things that I'm doing. So when you're thrown into it the first time, of course, it feels like you're kind of drowning. And I don't only have this particular thing that I'm working on. As you know, I have a full-time job as well. I do a lot of mental health work for a company of over 100, probably almost 200 employees. And I have my yoga classes, which I still continue. And that's a whole nother obligation on its own. And as I always say, when you're a wife, which is something that I have been still learning and figuring out to do, is being a wife and what that entails. Because you're basically, ikaw talaga yung ilaw ng tahanan, So when you're a wife, I'm not even a mom yet, and who knows if that's in the cards for me too. But you take care of the household. Without you, it just feels like it's crumbling down. So if for those who are wives or moms, probably you can relate to that a lot. You really take care of everything. You oversee it all. So coming back from being away from everything, it was a lot. And I think like at that time we didn't even have like help at home. And I admit I'm not domesticated. I'm not someone who will do all the chores like from morning to evening, like I have so much that I do throughout the day. So it was just a lot. It was just a lot of things happening. So it just felt like I needed to talk about that in that episode. And I think that now things have definitely settled. It should have settled because it's already been a few months, and technically we're kind of halfway there already because like I said, this this position, you only have like less than a year. It's not even technically a year. So it goes by really fast. And so we're kind of like almost halfway through. We're almost at the end basically. And so at this point things have settled. I'm very happy that we have good help at home now. It really is a huge load off my shoulders. And I'm the type of person that I just cannot function when things are a mess. I just cannot function. Like if everything is a mess and then if I'm unable to like follow my schedule, my routine, which that's like a topic for another episode that I'm also like slowly unraveling and understanding. But anyway, um I just need like everything to be in place. Everything needs to be clean, organized. It doesn't have to be like very, very shiny and super duper clean or anything like that. Like um I'm not I'm not that particular, but I just like everything to be in place, and not like such a huge mess. That feeling when you wake up in the morning and like I have all these chores that I have to do and I have to get it done before I leave the house because then when I come back it's just gonna double, and I have to get this done because it just keeps on piling up one after another, especially if I just let it pass by, so it's really like I just cannot function that way. I want to wake up and like feel at ease and have like a slow morning. So anyway, things have been so much better for me because we do have good help now. And so like I don't have to worry about that anymore. I've established like a good routine for myself that keeps things structured. But like I mentioned, I'm also learning to not fully rely on that routine and not let my days be too rigid, but to also have rhythm instead of routine. So when you talk about rhythm, it's more of like listening to your body, listening to yourself. What do I need right now? Because there are days when I force that routine, it just feels like I'm literally dragging myself from one task to another. And I hate that feeling. Like that's completely against my morals and who I am as a person. So I definitely am learning to loosen up a little bit, to not be so rigid about it, because I've had days where I wake up and I'm just not in a good headspace. And if you've ever like struggled with mental health, it just snowballs to something worse, especially if like I can't get myself to follow like the routine that I've set for myself. And like before, I've needed that. I've needed a routine because I was too lax about everything and I felt like I had no motivation. I just felt very lazy and down, and like energy was too low. So like having a routine in place pushed me to get up and do things. And so it helped me at that time in my life. But now that I'm not necessarily at that same I'm not the same person I was back then, and I have different needs, different obligations now, and I have so much more that I do. So it doesn't really apply to this current phase or period in my life. So finding your rhythm is so much healthier for me, and that's something that I'm currently exploring. And that's what I really appreciate about my journey right now. I'm going to call it my JCI journey, because I said yes to this experience because I knew that this was going to break me open. Like, it was going to break me open. It was going to show me my ugliest parts. It was going to show me the worst side of me and push me to be better. Like, it's going to push me to grow out of that and really learn these things. So I'm a sucker for like anything that's about self growth and leadership trainings and all that kind of stuff. And I've done that so many times in my life. But I knew that doing JCI was going to be a very unique experience because it was going to tap into like my deeper self and help me face like, what are the I don't want to say bad parts of me, but the siguro what are my weak points. No, it's really gonna show me what my weak points are, and it's gonna push me to work on it, to face it, and to not just like let it stay as is, but instead to work through it and be even better. And I knew that I would get to pursue all of my advocacies and more. And I don't know a lot of things about a lot of things, honestly. I'm very much like in my own world, and I have been that way, which I admit, ever since I was young. Very sheltered, very unaware of how things are done. I've never worked like full time and really stayed in like a legit corporate environment. I've never worked in like a government environment. Like, I don't know how things are run. I don't follow politics. I don't, I just know the basics. I just know like what I see online, but it's never been my personality to really understand and pay attention to those things. So I know that coming into this, I did not know anything. Like, I am clueless, when it comes to those things. So being part of JCI, it really does expand my world. It really, I learned so much about so many things. And what's great is that because I knew that if I said yes to this is like the safest space for me to do that, where this is all volunteer work. This is all like, you don't get paid. So there are no severe repercussions if I made a mistake or if I did something stupid or, those kinds of things. Although I don't think I've done anything that could like merit to something very irreversible or very bad for the chapter, the whole organization or anything. But this is the best playground for that. So I knew that I'm gonna do this because this will just like propel me forward to wherever I'm meant to be in the future. I get to expand my network. And not only that, but what I love about it is it really is a way for me to build confidence. Honestly, like, this is where it is for me because I came into this, I talked about it in like some videos, probably I can't really recall, but I think in some episodes I've touched on it a bit, that how I've been just like very insecure lately, and my self-esteem has been at an all-time low. And it's like because of many different factors, especially like how I feel about my body and where I am. And like, I'm at that phase in my life where you're no longer in your 20s and you're in your 30s and things are kind of serious. Things are like a little bit more dull than they used to be. And the standard of beauty is definitely different again, or it's like it's becoming more and more untouchable and unrealistic. So, when you see yourself, when I look at myself, at that point, like, I just felt very unhappy, and you look at a lot of aspects of your life too. So it was just a lot of that, that I was carrying, and I felt like I just felt very disconnected to myself and my happiness. So that was also a big reason why I knew like maybe this is the right thing to do, because I want this to help build my confidence, and I would want anyone who's in this position who takes on after me to also feel the same way, that it really does build their self-confidence. It makes them feel like I am worthy, I have value, I am perfect as I am doing enough. But it's also this place for me to really grow and to learn, because like I know that coming into this, again, I don't know anything. And so I am learning and I am changing, I am evolving through every single experience. And at right now, at my in this particular period in my life, as I'm recording this, I just feel like I'm in a good place, that I just feel very blessed, very abundant, very humbled and thankful of everything that's been happening, because I've been through some things. And just yesterday I was reflecting on that, and how like 3 years ago things were very heavy for me, because it was like, again, my world was just like completely, it just like shook me. It just really shook me, what went down. And like, it's still something that I carry with me till this day. It's more of like, don't forget where you came from, kind of thing. Like, I remind myself of that. Like, it humbles me every time I look back and remember like what I've been through, where I come from. Like, it really, all of that really humbled me. And that's why that had to happen, because I could have, if this were still part of the timeline and this is where I would end up, but that all of that didn't happen, let's say, I would probably be very airheaded about a lot of things. I would probably feel entitled to a lot of things. But because of what has happened to me, it has really like brought me back down to earth and really humbled me. So a lot has happened. I've been very, very preoccupied, very, very busy. And I would say that in the past few months, every single month, almost every single month, I guess, since I've jumped into this role, I have learned a lot of things. I would see what things are no longer working for me. The patterns that I have, the belief systems that I carry, the habits that I continue, that are probably not very healthy for me. And then the rigidity of my routine, that sometimes can also be my, like, it could also make me feel defeated, at the end. Like, it, so what worked for me before and what really like pulled me up is also what weighs me down during some days. No, so it's really like finally recognizing that here are some patterns, here are some habits, here are the routines that are no longer serving me now. And I would not be able to recognize that if I didn't take this on, if I didn't say yes to this. So before we continue, I just want to take a quick pause and share with you guys, as I've mentioned, that I am part of a nonprofit volunteer organization, and that's called Junior Chamber International, or JCI, Iloilo Ilang Ilang. We're an all-female chapter that provides leadership development opportunities that empower young people to create positive change. Our chapter conducts projects aligned with the UNSDGs, or the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and a few of our programs include women empowerment, protection of the environment and animals, assistance for differently abled people, and even uplifting different communities such as the youth, the elderly, and far-flung island barangays. We have a ton of projects coming up, so if you'd like to support the cause, you can reach out to us on our social media pages, JCI Iloilo Ilang Ilang, both on Instagram and Facebook, or email us at iloiloilangilang@gmail.com. So now that you kind of have an idea of where I'm coming from and how different my headspace is, I just wanted to share a few of the things that really stuck out to me in the past few months of doing all of this, being president of the chapter, and what has really changed for me. So the first one, when I came into to all of this, when I started, for some reason, I was bombarded with so many messages asking me to hold classes here, to do privates here. Like it was just one after another. And I think when I came in to all of this, I knew that I'm going to have to not accept a lot of these things. Like I won't be able to commit to privates. I won't be able to commit to other regular classes besides my own, and even to like talking opportunities or uh, any of the like that will basically add work to what I'm already doing, so because I knew that I easily burn out, so I had to be very extra careful for that, and on that. And so the first time someone did reach out to me and message me, and again, of course, these opportunities, they're amazing, right? Not everyone gets these opportunities, so it's really something to be thankful for. However, I guess like at that time, I was already very overwhelmed and worried, like anxious about like the amount of work that was facing me and the demand of the obligation of like again being president. So anything else that would add on to that, just like I was so afraid of it. I was really worried and so afraid of it. And there was a point when I guess this person, again, no hate to them whatsoever, just kept asking if maybe I can find time, maybe I can squeeze it in. And I'm like, to me, that was really triggering. Nothing on them, but for me, it was very triggering because it's like, when I say no, I mean no, And so it was hard for me to even say no to them. Like, I probably would have still like agreed if I was too soft, or too weak to just like explain to them. But I realized like now, months after looking back, that actually saying no, even if it's very hard, it probably has something to do with how I am affected by how they might feel by my response. So it's not really the act of saying no, because I feel like I have no problem with saying no. I have no problem with declining. But it's really like the feeling that they really want my services. And I feel like they might hate me because I'm choosing to decline, especially when they ask a second time around. And because like at first I really didn't want to explain why to them, because I it's not necessary. Like I don't owe anyone an explanation, and I find that the more you say about the certain things, the more you explain yourself, it's actually quite unprofessional. So I tried to hold back on that, but the second time around that they kind of asked, I just felt like, fine, let me explain this to them so they see it. And I tried to have a good positive attitude, but I think like that was done, and it's okay. We all moved on, but like I think afterwards it really did stay with me, and I really felt so sad, or not so happy about the experience and how much that triggered me. And it kept me like down for a few days, because I just felt that affected by it, especially by like everyone who just like came in and was asking, can you hold a class here, hold a class there. I'm just the type of person who's very, very particular about the classes I teach. Like I don't like doing it very often because again, I know my limits and I know how far I can go. And so if I go beyond that, it will really take a toll on me, and I've been there. It's not fun. And I don't want my yoga students and my yoga classes to be affected by that. Like they are the priority. And so all these extra ones, I don't really need it that much anymore, but it's a good opportunity. It's extra income. But at the same time, I know that it's just like, those are just like temporary, or like parang they're addition to what I'm already doing. So I just like to be very smart about that. So one of the biggest lessons that I've learned recently is that it really came up to the surface, right? Like how much of a people pleaser I am. And to me, it's not super, I don't want to see it as a completely negative thing, because I've gotten that my whole life. My mom would always tell me that because you're such a people pleaser, you do this and do that. And for me, that's not completely negative of a thing, because there are places where it works, when out of respect of where you are and what you're doing. Like, it just, to me, that's not a problem. But what happens is that what's wrong with that is that it affects me more than it affects like other people. And like I said, like that kind of stayed with me. So looking back, I have learned that whatever decision I make or whatever response I have, I should not let like their reaction to that affect me as much anymore. However way they respond to that, however way my reputation is seen or taken by them, then that's that. Let it be. The way they see me and my services, if they choose to to completely cancel me or what I do, then that's their choice. I don't have control over that. So the next time I encounter anything like this, wherein people might need something from me, and if I decide to politely decline or reject, again, I don't have to explain myself to them. And I won't let myself be affected by how they respond to whatever it is that I choose to do or choose to say. No, because every time that I say no to them, I'm saying yes to my own peace, and they won't get that. They're not going to understand that either. So why will I even spend my days, my time, sulking over what they might think of me? So yeah, that's one of the main things. That was like one of the first big lessons, like eye openers for me when I started this whole journey, especially because it happened like late in the year, and like just things are just all over the place late in the year. There's just so much that's going on that like I couldn't get a grip of everything. And so that was like the first main, like light bulb aha moment for me. Second is, the moment when, like I said, things got very busy. And when you start, well, for me personally, in my experience, at the start of all of this, like I felt like I had to constantly be available and constantly respond. And I realized that when I do that, sometimes I am unable to control my reaction, or how I make decisions, especially when it's kind of it's urgent or it's a big issue. There things like that happen. And so I find that if I let myself be too available and if I respond too soon, it's also not healthy. Not for me, not for them, not for the people that I'm communicating with. And so it really happened like at this exact moment when I woke up, and the first thing I did was check all my messages, because back then I felt like I needed to do that. And when I checked all my messages, there was a big problem that we had. And so, of course, it stressed me out. And so I immediately got out of bed, kind of angry, worried, called certain people. And I couldn't help but, of course, the tone of my voice and the things that I might have said just weren't it wasn't going to be exactly what I would have done or said if I were like in a better headspace. There wasn't anything like really bad about it, but I just wasn't happy or satisfied with that interaction. And then like I realized, what? It's not healthy for me to wake up first thing in the morning and then to check my phone. And especially every day of this journey, I just keep thinking of what it would be like when I'm done with being president, and how different everything is. It's going to be very quiet. I won't have 10 group chats or 10 messages that are like that I have to back read, for hours and hours. I'm not going to have that anymore once all of this is over. So it's important that, for example, from the start of my day, like my morning ritual is kind of intact, and that it's not affected by my obligations, especially in the morning, because that's like the start of the day, and it just kind of dictates how the rest of the day will feel like and turn out to be. So I realized at that moment that, you know what, from when I wake up, I'm going to focus on myself first. Like, I'm going to ensure that I'm in a good headspace, that I'm grounded, because all of this can wait. It may feel like it's very urgent. You may feel like I have to be very, very available at all times. But what happens is that if I don't set my boundary, I will never get anything done throughout the rest of the day, because all I'm going to do is just going to be focused on JCI stuff, when again I have other hats, other obligations that I also need to worry about, that I also need to think about. So from that moment, everything changed. I would only start checking my messages around like 11 a.m. onwards, or 12 lunchtime onwards. And to me, that was my super limit. There are days, if I feel like I am able to, then I will check my messages earlier than that. But I made it a point that from the moment I wake up, I avoid checking my messages, and instead use that time for prayer, for meditation, or anything that's going to ground me. And I reserve all of that brain work, that is required for all my other tasks, especially for JCI. I reserve it at a specific time of the day, so that at that time, like, I feel like, okay, I'm ready. I can face all of this now. I feel settled. I feel at ease and accomplished with whatever other tasks I may have. And it just worked, And so from there, I realized, everything can wait. And it's so much better when I pause for a bit and think about my response before anything. And that also leads me to my third lesson. When I started my JCI journey, I was really unsure of how to do things like meetings, networking, socializing. Oh my goodness, those were my weakest points, for real. Like, I was just horrible at it, terrible at it. And it's just so ironic that that's basically all that I do now. It's just like that's the main job, but honestly, before that, I didn't even know how to conduct a meeting. I didn't know like how to really do a good presentation, although I have done a little bit of that before, but like I never like had a structure or anything like that. Because again, like I never worked in a typical office setting. I never like worked full time for like the government, or in the corporate world. Like my work life has been yoga. When I graduated, and after a year, like I found yoga, and then that was all that I would do. So I have always been like just this freelancer wherein I work at my own time. In my yoga work experience back in Manila, there was a time where I did work for the studio as a marketing consultant, but that was like very basic work, and we did a lot of things. Yes, a lot of stuff for the studio I was working at and where I was teaching at. But of course, it's very laid back compared to many other jobs and offices. So it's very different. So I never really had that experience at all. So coming into this, whenever I would lead a meeting or a discussion or talk to people, I would just get very uncomfortable, especially when it comes to like when there's like dead air or like small talk. I'm horrible at that, terrible at that, very awkward. My goodness. So that's something that I've been learning. And I think that the time that I've spent in JCI so far, it's not very long, but honestly, I have learned so much and improved so much, especially now, like every meeting, each meeting that I lead, that I'm a part of, I get better and better, little by little, little by little, a little bit more professional, slowly. So I've learned to listen more. Especially me, I'm a rambler. I talk. That's why I do this podcast, because I do love to talk. And I do love to just keep talking and talking. And it's why it's my job, it's what I'm my line of work as well. But I'm learning, especially as president, to just listen and to let other people talk, and to pause, and it's okay to pause. And I really appreciate, this the most, because it does make such a big impact. Like I'm learning to pull myself to like just reel it in at times, because there are times when I want to really fill in the dead spaces, the dead air, and it just comes off as very rambly, very unprofessional at times. And so I'm learning to just to be clear with what I say, to be firm, because that's still something I'm working on, and then to give them time to speak, to really listen to others instead of speaking the most, during conversations or during meetings. And I think that's one thing that I've also learned to do when it comes to like small talk. I've become a little like more and more comfortable with it, because I tell myself, like, whenever you're in a conversation, it's not about you, make it about the person you're with. Like ask them questions, really be curious about what's going on in their life, what their experience is. And I think that really has helped me like deal and manage small talk and like socializing and networking a little bit more. Yeah, so listening a little more and talking less is another big lesson that I've been able to take from this experience. Next one, I think I just have a few more left. No, so stay with me. I'm almost there to the end. I've learned that, again, going back to what I've said earlier, is that I don't know anything. And I felt coming into this, I felt quite unsure about myself, because I knew that I'm coming into this kind of still young in this JCI journey compared to many others. A lot of other presidents have been with JCI for 12 years, 10 years, for a very long time. And here I am, I haven't been here for that long, But I always remind myself but that's the point, You're coming in here because you're not meant to know everything, and that to me is the best kind of leader, is the one who is aware that they don't know it all, but they're striving to learn more, to understand everything, and that they're using the people, their members, their officers, the people around them, they're reaching out to them for help and letting them help them. I'm not coming into this bragging that I know it all, and pretending that I know what's best for every single decision. Like, I don't know that. I'm not sure about a lot of things. And so I fully embrace that about myself, that I am learning about these things. And when you embrace that more, and you just embrace the fact that, yes, I am an imperfect leader, I am a flawed leader, but I'm a very open one as well. I'm a very patient leader as well, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to learn the ropes and get better as I go. So that was another thing that really helped me, because of course, naturally, for someone like me coming into this, you're gonna feel insecure. You're gonna feel like, oh, I don't think I deserve to be here. I don't think that I know enough to be here, right? And I would rather have that kind of leader, honestly, than someone who again portrays this type of person and personality that they are all knowing and that they definitely deserve to be here, but not in a but more like in a proud, braggish type of way, you know. I wouldn't like that kind of leader at all. So it took me a while, you know, and I kind of have to remind myself again and again, honestly, like every month, I kind of have to make that reminder that it's okay, you know, you don't know everything, that's okay. And that's why you have your officers, you have your elders, you have these past presidents who are there to guide you. So just reach out to them. And if anything, I assume that it'll make them feel like they are part of your journey, like they are needed, that they are wanted, and that they are valued, right? Rather than me just like, I'm going to handle this all by myself because I can do it all. No. Which leads me to the last lesson that I have learned is that I've always overestimated myself when it comes to handling work and tasks. And I think that, you know, this is very, to me, how I see it is that it's very common among women. You know, we are multitaskers. We can handle so many things all at the same time. Especially when I came into my marriage, and you know, it's the first time that I'm managing a household, that you know, you're like taking care of not just yourself anymore, but your husband as well. You're thinking about all these different things, which was all very new and like overwhelming for me at the beginning. It was a lot. Like I was not ready for that, honestly. Um, but you know, naturally, we're kind of seen as as these people who can carry so many things all at the same time. You know, as a wife, like my mind is always thinking about the home, you know, the household. What are the errands I need to do for the house? What are the chores that are needed? Like there's a lot of uh the mental load. I may not be the one physically doing it. Like I can definitely ask my husband to do this, which I do. Like I definitely order him around to do certain things in a loving way. But the mental load of that, I'm the one that carries that. You know, if I don't think about these things, it's just going to be left alone, you know, and it's not going to be taken care of. So, you know, I think about the house, I think about the dogs, everything that they need. I have to think about my husband as well. Like, is what can I do to take care of him? That's just my personal preference because I want to. I'm not saying that he asks me to take care of him. Um, and then I think about my yoga students, my yoga classes, then my work, and then you have JCI on top of that. And then, of course, like I have family obligations as an only child. I think of my own mom and what do they need, and like my father, my dad as well, and how can I be more present. So it's like I am thinking of all of these things every single day, and that's just part of the mental load that I carry. And when it comes to certain tasks, especially when it came to JCI tasks, there are a lot of times when I would just like take it all on by myself and assume that like I can handle it, you know? And I genuinely really think that, oh, I don't think I need help. I think I'm fine. And also because like there have been times when, let's say, I would ask for help, not just in JCI, but like outside of JCI, and kind of be rejected. So I think like I grew up that way, that like you gotta, if you want to do something or fix something, you gotta do it by yourself because I can't really ask for help, you know. So I've just like carried that with me. And so there have been several projects wherein like I just do it by myself, and then I realize, oh no, I'm swamped like the last minute, like while I'm doing it, and I don't realize it. So I think that now as president, I have really like that's been my priority, and I've really worked on that a lot more. Like I know that I cannot handle all these things by myself. So I try to let others take on the tasks first, and then if I know like okay, they seem pretty swamped, let me take this on. And so I think I've done so much better because there hasn't come a point where like I would just take it on by myself, I think. Because naturally that's just who I am. But I just remind myself again that remember, you can ask for help. You don't need to do these things alone. And I think I've learned to communicate that with my husband more. I've been able to communicate with him and let him know that I need you to do this, I need help with this. And before, I never would do that. Like I was at that headspace before, wherein like I would want it to come from him, and that was not helping our marriage at all. Like waiting for them to, approach me or help me, and lit coming from them when all I had to do was just ask, So that was something that I learned as well in our marriage that has helped us a lot better now, because again, as long as I ask and I just like I just verbalize it to my husband, he's very much willing to do it. He's very much willing to assist and support me. But I just have to say it. I have to let him know. And the same goes for like a lot of the other tasks now. I'm realizing that I don't have to do it all by myself. If I really need help, I can reach out, and I can ask for help. And it just works so much better, that way. And so a lot of these lessons have really just like changed me. I want to add like one last bonus lesson that I've learned, which has been very powerful for me lately, is because again, it kind of ties into everything at the same time. I think again, me growing up, I have always dealt with insecurity, not feeling good enough, not feeling enough. That's always been like my belief system, my pattern, and it just shows in a lot of things. Like I feel like I have, like I have to please everyone. And now that I'm in this space of being president, and like the things that I've done, like interacting with other people, meeting new people, experiencing many new things, I'm learning to just be comfortable in who I am. And there's like this different sense, this different feeling, like, before what it felt to me was that I would be the one that would over, what's the term? Like, how I'm the one who initiates reaching out to people, but not literally. Like I extend, there you go. Like I try to extend myself or overextend myself to people, because again, I'm trying to please them. I'm trying to look good, quote unquote, what I thought was looking good. And that would just like always put out this desperate energy, like this desperate energy, this energy that, again, this person is not fully confident in who they are. And recently I've learned to no longer do that, and instead to just stand in my own power. When I sit, when I stand, when I move, there's like this energy that I carry with me now, that people will come to me, opportunities, they will find me. Support will also find its way to me. I don't have to overextend myself. I don't have to exude this energy of like I'm desperate, or I'm not good enough, I'm weak, like this negative aura. And that's I've carried with me for many years, because again, I would carry like all of my hardships. I carry my story with me, and always like replay it. I always come back to it, and it's about time that I completely let it go and let it stay in the past, and not let it weigh me down, or not let it define who I am now. And so now, as I move through my days, as I move through this journey, not just my JCI journey, but just in general too, like I like this person that I am slowly becoming, this person that just is just comfortable, and comfortable and confident in where I am now. And that's like such a big leap from where I came from. Just a few months ago, I was very insecure, very unhappy with who I was. And it showed in the way I moved, in the way I dressed, and how I felt. And now, like, I allow myself to take up space. I let myself take my time. I'm not gonna rush for anyone. I'm not gonna adjust for anyone, especially if I don't feel comfortable adjusting yet. I don't have to change who I am, or or to overextend myself anymore, because again, as long as I do everything with intention and pure intentions, and I'm not harming anyone, and I have faith and I trust and I surrender to all of this, everything just kind of finds its way to me. And it also gives me this new sense of I guess character, wherein I don't have to overcompensate for anything. Again, like the rambling, the talking, it just feels like I'm trying to prove myself a lot, right? Trying to be available for everyone, all of that. Like I throw that all away, and I just kind of hone in to who I am. I take time to just like reflect, to be still, to be quiet, and to listen. And then when it's time, like, I use my voice, I let myself be heard, I take up space, and I take my time, and it just feels like it's more authentic, to who I am. Like, I feel more aligned. And one last thing is, like, I was listening to this podcast, and I don't want to give too much away because I don't think it's appropriate for this podcast. But anyway, I love how they mentioned about, like, the way you carry yourself. It's really like a lifestyle. It's not just something that you do because it's like an obligation or because you want something, but the way you carry yourself is really a lifestyle. And I'm starting to look at that, of how I carry myself through this JCI journey, and is also how I like to carry myself when I'm just by myself, when it's just me. And it just makes me feel more, again, aligned with who I am, and I just feel so much better. I feel more confident. And when I feel confident and centered in who I am, I just feel like I'm more aware, I'm more present. I can hear the people around me better. I can make better decisions. I can function better, and just my overall well-being just feels good. I feel at peace. And so this whole journey, I'm realizing that, again, it's not about arriving at a destination and really knowing everything. It's really about having the courage to just stay in the room when things get very messy, and then having the humility to let the process change me. And that's the one thing that has carried me through all of this. Every time I am triggered by anything, if I feel low, if I feel down, I go back to this, and I remind myself that you said yes to this for this exact experience, for the ugly moments, for the messy moments, because this is what humbles you and reminds you to come back down to earth. Even like where I am right now, when I look at my house and where we live at the moment, before I would feel uncomfortable. I feel like I'm not good enough because of where we are, but then I realize that all of this, it really is part of a bigger plan, a bigger journey. And it just makes everything so much more meaningful, so much more meaningful. Right now, where I am, as I lead this chapter, I'm not just here to lead the people, to lead it to the next year, until we have a new president. But it's really my way of coming back to the most honest version of myself. So all of this ugly growth, all of the quiet lessons, and the beautiful unraveling that is happening right now is all part of this amazing journey that I will never get to experience again. So that's that for today. That's all I have to say for this episode. And I hope that somehow, even though you may not have the exact same experience as me, this resonated with you and that it kind of can help you and guide you in your own life. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I would love to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. So if you have any comments, you can share it below or follow me on my socials at Ilongga Yogi on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. Again, thank you for staying here with me and taking the time to listen. I wish you peace in your body, peace in your mind, and peace in your heart wherever you are. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.